everyone, and welcome to the Prove Fraudcast, where we deliver actionable insights for identity and fraud executives. With me today is Marianne Miller, an expert in the fraud and identity space, who's been featured by BBC News, NPR, American Banker, USA Today, and others. Marianne was most recently head of fraud strategy at Varo Bank and has also held roles with the US Federal Reserve, USAA, PayPal, and other technology firms. Welcome, Marianne. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks, Yuka. It's great to be here today.
Now, Marianne, the end of the year is approaching and businesses and banks are preparing to get their tax filing documents to Americans. With this, we've been receiving a lot of questions around TIN matching. Can you tell us what TIN matching is and what businesses should know about identity proofing for TIN matching purposes?
Yes, and this is a really important topic, Yuka. Simply put, the IRS has a service called TIN matching, and TIN stands for Taxpayer Identification Number, and that assists the payer. The payer can be a bank or it could be a business in determining if the payee their taxpayer identification number and their name combination and contained on their W-9 form is actually matches. So it's a very important process that aids in the IRS filing process.
And you touched upon this a little bit, Marianne, but for those who might not be fully familiar, such as myself, what exactly is a TIN?
That's a great question. A taxpayer identification number, and we're familiar, most people are familiar with the Social Security number as one form of a taxpayer identification number, but the IRS actually does issue different or alternative taxpayer identification numbers as well. So they're primarily used, again, to identify you during the tax filing process.
And what are some of the common TIN matching issues that businesses should prepare for that could get them into hot water with the IRS?
Yes, this is another great question, Yuka, and I'll give a few examples. So one is, if your bank or your business is not conducting really true identity proofing processes, what can happen is during the TIN matching process, you can assume that the taxpayer name, for example, Marianne Miller, and the information provided matches, but in fact, that could actually have been not Marianne who presented that information to your organization. Therefore, you could be reporting income to someone that didn't actually interact with you in the digital way. So that's the first example. The second example is if your bank's onboarding process isn't really accurate, in other words, it doesn't really look for the true SIP information, customer information program. In other words, Marianne's name, social security number, date of birth, and address. You could actually book something. You could actually book something that is not a correct combination, and therefore, those social security numbers also, if those aren't checked accurately, could be a social security number that doesn't even exist. So that's something that will take your organization a long time to reconcile. And then lastly, I would say that another topic is synthetic fraud. So that's when a bad actor uses my social security number, but your name, Yuka, and maybe some other combination of information to create a person. And if your onboarding processes don't really take into consideration detection of synthetic fraud, again, this is another example where you have a large reconcilement issue in the background, really reconciling these identities for tax purposes.
Some great insights for banks and other businesses. And any final insights you can share with our audience?
Well, I really think that, if you look at the remediation efforts, if you don't have good onboarding processes that have to take place for tax filing purposes, investing in better controls for onboarding not only ensures the reduction of fraud and operational costs, but it can keep you out of hot water with the IRS and prevent many consumers from being victims of fraud. So I would say if you haven't done so, relook at your onboarding processes, ensure that they're sound. That way you can keep out of hot water with the IRS.
Thank you so much for that overview, Marianne, and thanks everyone for watching. For more fraud and identity insights, head to prove.com.